The Pretoria High Court yesterday heard the contents of two confession statements in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial for the first time. The disputed accounts were allegedly deposed by accused number 1, that's Moses Bia, and accused number 2, Bongani Ntanzi. The statements make the startling claim that Kelly Khumalo paid 100,000 rand for her then-boyfriend to be killed. Legal analyst Mpumelelo Zikalala joins me for this discussion. Mr. Zikalala, a pleasure to have you on the program this afternoon. As a legal analyst, you've been closely following the Senzo Meyiwa murder case. Bongani Ntanzi's confession implicating Kelly Khumalo has really stirred significant controversy. Can you provide some insight into the legal implications of such a confession being admitted into a court record and also its potential impact on the ongoing trial?
Good afternoon to you and also to your viewers. I think we must distinguish between the two processes. One is the admission of that particular piece of evidence or the confession into one of the things or one of the pieces of evidence that are going to be evaluated further. Now, the second process now is ensuing, in which you then start and say, let me evaluate this particular evidence. Can it be, what is the probable value of the evidence? Can it be something that can be believed? Is there some weight that we must attach to this particular evidence as the court? All leading to one thing. Can we then assume that this particular individual is indeed guilty? Or is there a reasonable explanation that can be there? Now, one of the explanations that can be raised by the defense at a later stage would be to say to the investigating officer, if you have such a strong confession that is there, yes, I do understand that it will only implicate me and not any other individual, but why didn't you act upon it when you are being told that there's a second person which is part and parcel and that motivated or had the same thought of mind as me? The doctrine of common purpose could have been utilized in the trial so that you're able to try those two individuals together. So what caused you to go or to pursue this individual compared to another one? So it's one of the things which are going to be interrogated, and one of the things that may be used by the defense, by the way, to then say, even the state did not believe that these particular confessions were true, which is why we do not have Ms. Kelly Khumalo as part of the co-accused. So why should it then be admitted? And coming back to poking holes into the state's submissions that have been made so that you do not get that guilty plea at the end of the day.
So in looking at the confession statement by Bongani Ntanzi, it does allege that Kelly Khumalo ordered the hit on Senzo Meyiwa and also paid for this hit. How does this confession affect the dynamics of the trial, particularly in terms of the evidence presented and also the credibility of the witnesses?
It then says from the person who's going to provide that particular piece of evidence, which is the investigating officer, then if you are told through a confession statement that this person must be implicated, why didn't you arrest them? So it's one of the reasons, one of the things that must be looked at, which is going to work in the defense's favor to then say, it's because these particular statements were provided or obtained in an illegal manner. They were provided or they were not true admission statements as it was earlier contended. Hence why even the police did not act upon it. Hence why even the prosecution did not act upon it, because they also got a chance to see the docket before it comes to court. But then for the state, it then says, maybe it may not prove the motive of why a person actually did that particular horrendous crime, but it does prove to our concession as a state to say, this is the individual that pulled the trigger, this is the individual that on the day went in and killed Mr. Senzo Meyiwa. Prosecute and charge and convict him based on that and nothing else. We'll deal with all the other features at a later stage as we are continuing to investigate as the law enforcement agencies and also as the NPA.
I want us to expand on that point. The defense may argue against the credibility of Ntanzi's confession and attempt to challenge its validity. What strategies might the defense then employ to contest the confession, and how likely are they to succeed given the court's ruling on its admissibility?
Well, the chances of succeeding on that one are going to be very low, but it doesn't stop the defense from going back and looking at whether this particular confession statement was obtained in a free and voluntary manner. The person was in sober senses and perfectly understood what they were doing. Because it is one thing to tell a person that you are about to confess, but it's another to go into detail about the implications of that confession and the type of repercussions in which it's going to have. And the state of mind when you do that confession. If you do a confession now when there's no undue pressure that has been given unto you, it's easy for you to come back and say, I'm not going to answer any questions. But if you've been in jail for enough time. You've endured some sort of injustices, then certainly you're going to do things which are not proper. I think that's what the defense is going to focus on, and also on the credibility. And the most important question, if you have a confession implicating a second individual, why didn't you arrest them?
So legal experts have also suggested that the ruling on the admissibility of the confessions has really strengthened the state's case against the accused. Can you elaborate on the implications of this ruling for both the prosecution team and the defense moving forward in the trial?
Yes, it has. I think it gave them almost 80% up until the finish line, because if you have someone that has confessed, there's no other explanation that is going to be considered by the court other than that of the confession, especially if the confession of someone being accused. So it does bolster their cases, just a few administrative processes that they need to tie up, and then the case is done and dusted. That is for the state. For the defense, it's going to be a much harder process to do, because at the end of the day, you have this confession statement that you can't wish away. You have a confession statement that you need to try and discredit, which is going to be very difficult. There is a provision, though. If you raise Section 317 of the Criminal Procedure Act, if you're going to say there is a irregularity that has taken place or some type of illegality that has taken place, when the judge was providing reasons of why the admission should be then be considered, he did not go to town or comprehensively explain as to the technical analysis of adjudicating the matter that he has applied, so that he makes the defense understand how it arrived at that particular decision. The reason why you do that is that you want to eliminate any suspicions or speculation that may be, and then you're able to show the parties that I've sat down, read the evidence, applied the law to the facts, and these are my conclusions, which are supported by case law. If you don't have those, then it opens up the loophole of saying that there's some irregularity which is taking place. Can you please address it before we move on? Which may delay the completion of this case if we are going to start on that one. Because if you are not successful, you can even go to the SCA and even the Concord before coming back to complete the initial trial.
And looking ahead, Mr. Zikalala, what key aspects of the trial do you anticipate will be crucial in really determining the outcome? And how do you foresee the legal proceedings unfolding in light of these recent developments?
There might be a potential 317 application, a request or at least a request for the reasons of how the judge arrived at admitting those admissions. The second one, it may be that one of the motives which are going to be branded in is the name of Ms. Kelly Khumalo, who's going to come in here and then. The most important question being, why didn't you arrest the particular suspect when you've got a person who is confessing and they are implicating them? What caused them not to do so? If there are monies that were branded around or monies that were paid, how were they paid? If it's through electronic means, why didn't you investigate those? And could be from the side of the defense. In fact, you are making us a scapegoat for failing to investigate the matter properly. The person you should be arresting, they should be sitting there, is some out there. And that is why you are engaging in this witch hunt. It's one of the defenses in which they could raise. But it's going to be very difficult, and they'll need to be very meticulous in their submission, so that at the end of the day, they come back with a verdict which is going to say your clients are not guilty, either through to technical non-compliances or through the merits of the case simply not favoring the state.
Thank you so much for your time. That's legal analyst Mpumelelo Zikalala helping us unpack some of the developments in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial.